Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you decided to take an hour out of your day and come and spend a little bit of time to listen to Amee speak. I think that her presentation is going to be amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Amee Dowkes has been in the field of early childhood education for over 15 years as a teacher, a mentor, a family education coordinator, site supervisor, director. Ooh, hang on just a second. Let me make sure that everyone is on mute. Okay. Go ahead and keep going. So she has done many, many things. She also volunteers her expertise in various educational settings. At Triumph Center for Early Childhood Education, an inclusive preschool that partnered with UC Davis Mind in creating an educational environment based on the latest research about learning and brain development. She coordinates and conducts family engagement seminars with a focus on positive approaches in promoting children's social and emotional development. She facilitates professional development workshops and trainings for early childhood educators. She's an advocate for inclusive practices in early childhood settings. So today, I think that we are going to really get some great information and we are super excited. So Amee, the floor is yours and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I have a bit of a cold, so bear with me. Hopefully I don't have to stop and cough, but we'll see what I can do. So today we're going to cover school readiness. We're going to talk about relationships, responsiveness, and recognition. And these are important topics in the field that I work in, the field that you guys work in. I work for Head Start, as Tish had said, and we predominantly work with children birth through kindergarten. And so today, if I can get this to work. So today we'll be exploring how strong adult-child relationships, enriching responsive environments, and supportive learning promote school readiness, which leads to positive outcomes for children. All right. So we're going to begin with our strong adult-child relationship. So we're going to define what it means to create meaningful connections with children. We're going to identify why building positive relationships with children is important. And we're going to discuss the effective strategies for starting and sustaining positive relationships with children. All right. So connecting with a child means watching for something significant that a child is doing, saying, or feeling, and then intentionally creating an interaction with that child related to what you see. So in this particular picture, we're looking at, the teacher interacting with the child based on an interest of the child. So it's important to know a child on a personal level and then to build on that information that you gather to be able to sustain that lasting connection. Oops. All right. So it's been well documented that a strong adult-child relationship can lead to many positive outcomes for children. Positive relationships may serve as buffers for children. Caring and supportive relationships can also help children defy odds. And quality relationships have been linked with low levels of aggression in children. Other positive outcomes include high levels of social skills, school readiness, more independent behaviors, higher levels of frustration tolerance, validation of cultural and linguistic backgrounds, more positive interactions between peers, higher levels of school engagement, and in some cases, a valuable protective factor for children who are living in poverty. And give me just a second. Oops. I feel like I lost my, let me go back. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with Urie Bronfenbrenner. He was a psychologist who developed the ecological systems theory. So this quote emphasizes the importance of relationships in children's development. I'll give you a second to read it over. I'm sure you guys have seen it in many of your classes. So positive relationships are critical in children's healthy development. Meaningful relationships develop through a process of exchanges between a child and someone who intentionally loves, cares for, and spends time with them. And so as the quote states, someone has to be crazy about that child. And as a teacher, that's you. All right, so an important question to ask yourself is, why do you think children thrive when they have a connection with a caring adult? So it's been shown that children's learning improves when educators display a positive affect, they share activities with them, and they make an effort to connect with their family. Children are also more likely to take risks when educators reinforce effort, when they show excitement and enthusiasm, encourage and give positive praise, and when they consistently validate children's feelings. Children's engagement increases when educators plan activities based on their interests, when they ask questions about their life outside of the learning environment, when they honor their home language, and when they provide help and new and challenging tasks for the child. And lastly, children talk and share more when education staff listen, when they make eye contact, if it's culturally appropriate, ask for clarification, ask open-ended questions, and laugh and play with the children. So here are some examples of adults working with infant toddlers. And this is things that they may think about when they make plans to build connections with those infants and toddlers. So they show the child how important they are to them. For example, I'm going to give Maya some extra one-on-one time since she's expressing excitement about turning 2.5 years old today. Oops. And another example is they make an effort to incorporate family routine into the classroom setting. So I'm going to remember Alejandro is most comfortable when I hold him the way his parents do during bottle feeding. And they also celebrate the individual child. So an example would be, I'm going to support Alexa's desire to choose which clothes to put on first after her diaper is changed. All right, so we are going to watch a video, and this video shows infant toddler teachers in action, building relationships with children in a variety of ways during ongoing activities, routines, and transitions.
Oh, you're choosing the shaker with the bells. Come on, Mia. You want to come? You want to come see our toys? You're still waking up, huh? Okay, let me help your friend Mia. I think she's feeling a little shy. Miss Darcy, can I trade you? Mia, come here. How are you? Huh? You seen the friends in our classroom? Yeah? You got some friends in here, huh? Do you want to play? What do you want to play with? Look what we have here. Let's see. Look. What do you choose, huh? I have the purple ring. Oh, you're gonna use the ladybug? Huh? Ladybug, ladybug, shake, shake, shake. Ladybug, ladybug, shake, shake, shake. I see you. I'm still here. Yes. I had to go and get your friend Mia. She was feeling a little shy. Yes. What's this one? No castañeras? Huh? Shake, 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 shake. You're making sounds, Mia. When you shake it, it makes a sound, huh? Uh-oh. Oh. Shake it, shake, 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 shake. Yes. Let me see. What do you think this one will do? Shake, 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 shake. Do you think the ring will make a sound?
Oops.
You showing Miss Narcy? Yes. What else can you do with that? Let's see. How does that feel on your gums, Alexandra? How does that feel? Does it feel hard? Yeah? Does it feel hard? Do you want to try something different, Mia? Oh, thank you. Good cleaning up. You put it in the basket? Huh? You put it in the basket? Huh? What's this? What's this? What is that? You want to see? Come. Come. You feeling a little shy? The giraffe. Let's see how the giraffe works. Let's try it. Look. Twist. Twist it on, twist it off. You want to try? Twist. Yes, you're turning it. You made it tighter.
All right, so this video is great. This teacher is wonderful. She displayed many relationship building behaviors that she engaged in during the video. Some examples are she was in close proximity of the children. She comforted the child who was feeling shy because there was, extra people in the classroom. She shared in activities with the child. She used parallel talk. She used a variety of modalities. She offered choices. She named the child's feelings. She was using a positive affect. She was promoting independence and encouraging the child, amongst many, many other things. So that would be a wonderful example of a teacher interacting and building those connections with an infant, toddler age child. All right, so here are some examples of adults working with preschoolers, what they may think about when they're trying to build connections. So they make plans to learn a child's home language. So for example, today I'm going to use the new Spanish word I learned with Maria. They think about giving planned and meaningful encouragement at just the right time. Example, I'm going to give Amee some encouragement at the writing center. And they show an appropriate level of interest in a child's life outside of school. So an example would be, I'm going to ask Max what animals he saw at the zoo yesterday. All right, so now we're going to watch a video. This one's shorter. And so this video shows adults in action, building relationships with children in a variety of ways during ongoing activities, routines, and transitions. And so this is more at the preschool level. And the interviews with education staff, parents, and program directors will highlight the benefits of positive adult-child relationships.
Well, we know, from research that the teacher-child interaction is like essential. It's like a springboard, for all other learning. And I think if the teacher has a really good relationship with the children, they're able to communicate, they're able to, children have trusting relationships with their teachers, that bond.
Hi, Dixie. Hi. So good that you came to school. I see you put your things away already. Right now, we get to play anywhere we want.
Great words you asking. High five. That's a long word. I love my mom and dad. I know you love your mom and dad. They love you so much too.
Yeah, I remember you made one for your mom yesterday and you wrote the word mom, M-O-M. Is this one for your dad or your sister?
For my sister.
For your sister? We can write the word sister on it too.
Which one?
Sister? Okay. You got it, girl.
I think that I accept each child as an individual and say, you can do it, and give them that opportunity to just try. And when they try and they try again and they're like, look, I did it. And yeah, you did it.
The sun comes out.
And their whole self-esteem goes so high. And then when they get to look at you and show them that you're so proud of them too, it's just like, wow, that teacher really understands me. And it makes me feel like, God, I made a difference to that child.
All right, so again, in that video, there was some similarities in the previous video. They were sharing in play activities with children. The teachers were using positive affect. They were letting the children take the lead in activities. They were promoting independence, spreading out during playtime to make sure they were, interacting with all children. They were teaching the names of emotions and providing encouragement. So again, these are all, wonderful ways of building those connections with our students. So when we think about the steps involved in creating and maintaining a positive connection with a child, we know that it's not just a one-time statement of praise, a warm greeting once in a while, or occasionally showing interest in child's life outside of school. Creating and maintaining meaningful connections with children means that we're engaging in a series of planned and purposeful interactions. So these are like back and forth interactions in which teachers are continually monitoring themselves to make sure that the child's engaged and receiving something positive out of the interaction. So a few ways that fostering connections support staff and children at school is when educators observe a child, it helps a child feel safe and secure. When educators offer child encouragement, the child engages in the environment. And when educators plan for instruction, the child is ready for learning. So creating and maintaining meaningful connections with children means that you're engaging multiple times in back and forth planned and purposeful interactions. So it's not just the checking in at the beginning of the day, asking them how they are. It's the engagement throughout the day and making those connections as meaningful as possible. And so here is, this video is, if you ask children about how they might feel and what they might think about when their teacher made efforts to connect with them, these are some examples of what a child might say.
I love seeing my teacher. My teacher and I tell jokes together. Sometimes my teacher calls me home to say nice things. I like it when my teacher tells me I'm working hard. My teacher knows I can do it.
And so as you can see, the teachers have a huge impact on the lives of children, and even the littlest interactions can make a difference. And you really never know, like it may not be super obvious in the beginning that you've made that connection, but the more persistent you are with it, eventually, the kids will come around. I've had many experiences where you feel like maybe in the classroom, you're not really connecting, but you're trying. And then you have that conversation with a parent and they tell you how, the child goes home and talks about you all the time. It's kind of that persistence as a teacher of really building that connection and maintaining it. And I think it's our job to put the effort in, and eventually, even the hardest kid will come around. So young children typically don't tell us in words or signs what we do to connect with them. We have to observe their behavior to get a sense of the connection. So here's another video. As you watch the following video, think about the caregiver, what she's doing to connect with the children. And this is that teacher that I love so much. She does a great job.
Let's talk about your avocado. Eileen is rolling her avocado. What can you do with your avocado? What does it taste like? Oh, you threw it like a ball? It is round like a ball, huh? Is this food or is it a toy? Is that food or a toy? That's for you. Yes, that's right. You have it, Mia. That is your avocado. What do you think you're going to find inside the avocado? Oh, you're bouncing it on your head. Huh? It's not very flat. It didn't stay, huh? What do you think? So what do you see and what do you see on the outside? Huh? Uh-oh. Did your avocado fall? No. Yours. You're right. You are in possession of that avocado.
Sorry about that.
Yours. Avocado. You say avocado? Your avocado. This one is Eileen. Eileen's using the table.
A piece of avocado toast would be amazing right now. Okay, so in the video, what we saw was a lot of eye contact that she made with the children. She's in close proximity. She's talking with she's verbally describing and modeling what the children are doing. She's supporting children's needs, and she's fully prepared for the activity. So when Mia dropped her avocado, which just broke my heart, she was able to grab another avocado out of the basket so that there wasn't any time wasted, looking for kind of a replacement. All right, so as much as we strive to connect and build relationships with children, there are certain barriers to having those quiet moments to spend with a child that simply come with being busy. So I know a lot of times we watch these videos and we're thinking like, it's a teacher with this tiny amount of kids, and that's not like realistic, and that's not really how a classroom looks. But as educators with the best intentions, we can get derailed by a myriad of tasks which beg for our attention on a daily basis. The following tasks can impact the relationships that we have with children. So when we're doing paperwork, we're cleaning up, we're dealing with challenging behaviors, just burnout, lack of support, and activity preparation. So there's always things that are going to come in the way of us building those relationships. It's just a matter of us prioritizing and making sure that we realize like how important it is that we have those interactions while the children are in our classroom, and try to make sure that we're fully prepared for class ahead of time, and that we're not stopping what we're doing to get those little tasks done during the day. All right. So one way to think about building relationships with children is imagining that each child comes with their own personal piggy bank, and a piggy bank can be filled with deposits. Each of these deposits can fill up a child's bank and at the same time work to build a connection and relationship between the adults and the child. So our goal as educators is to make sure that every child has enough deposits so that if we need to make a withdrawal, like in the form of a correction or redirection, that the child's piggy bank has enough positive deposits to offset an occasional withdrawal. So we want to keep in mind that some children are going to arrive to our classroom with piggy banks that are already completely depleted from receiving too many withdrawals and not enough deposits. So ways that we can make deposits into the children's piggy banks would be to provide empathy, would be playing together, giving warm greetings, and then even making positive phone calls home. Those are all ways that we can build the connection and make our interactions positive. All right, so a quick review of this section before we move on to the next. We talked about the importance of creating positive adult-child relationships, that these relationships are the first step in children's learning and for school readiness. We talked about that relationships are a series of back and forth interactions between adults and children. And I want you guys to think about easy and creative ways to build relationships with children in your classroom, and especially those children who prove to be more challenging at first when you're trying to connect. All right. So now we're going to move on to enriching responsive environments. So we're going to discuss the effects and identify the components of effective environments. We'll discuss the approaches to designing the physical space, the contents, and grouping arrangements in a well-organized classroom. So while we just discussed relationships play a key role in children's healthy development, the physical environment also has a significant impact. When environments are engaging, they support children's participation in activities and they promote development and learning. Both indoors and outdoors are important environments to take into consideration. We're going to focus primarily on the indoor environment. So effectively arranged environments can significantly increase child engagement in learning experiences. The components of those classrooms include well-designed physical spaces, the selection of relevant materials that support learning, and how we intentionally group children. So the following are the steps that you would implement when designing your physical space. So you want to look at your classroom, you want to assess it, you want to look at what your strengths and limitations are. And it's also good to get outside input. I know when I was a teacher, and I actually shared a classroom with another teacher, and so we really fed off of each other. She taught the 3s, I taught the 4s. And so we really had to kind of make the environment work for both classrooms and both ages of children. But it's funny how you have your own perspective of things and how you kind of get, you think that it's working one way, but when you have somebody on the outside come in and kind of take a look at it, and if you like truly listen to their feedback, you can kind of see like, oh, there actually might be a better way, to do this or rearrange like the classroom that's more beneficial to the children. So it is important to kind of get a little bit of feedback from somebody else. You also want to strategize on how to improve to meet all the needs of all children. So you need to be thinking about your class as a whole and the individual needs that the children might have and how you need to set the classroom up to make sure that everybody's needs are being met. And then once you have all that information, you want to arrange and modify your physical space. It's also important to even though we want to keep things consistent for children, it is important to reevaluate your classrooms and your space and make sure that as the year goes on, things are still working. Just because you set it up one way on the first day of school doesn't mean that you might not need to change it halfway through based on new students you might get or how, you know, behaviors are happening in your classroom. So you really want to be flexible in that. So from a child's perspective, so if you're looking at the classroom from a child's perspective, you want to make sure that the classroom is welcoming and has adequate space. You want to ensure that the materials are interesting and at the child's eye level. You want to make sure that traffic patterns are safe. So you don't want any like open running spaces, that boundaries are established. So you're clearly defining your interest areas. There's a clear line of sight for teachers. So an example would be that furnishings are not blocking the teacher from seeing students at all times. You need to have your eyes on your students at all times. You want to make sure that the children's cultures are reflected in the space. So that may include family photos, that you have various languages represented throughout the classroom, your books, manipulatives, such as like food in the home area, dress up clothes, multicultural dolls and puppets. You want to try to include as much of the culture of the students in your class as you can. You also want to have home-like features. So plants, rugs, pillows, window coverings, flexible space for gross motor, child-sized sturdy furnishings, and that you want to define your active and quiet areas and make sure they're separate. So you could use like your science area to buffer like the block area from the library. So you want to be very intentional in how you're setting up your classroom. And you also want to be looking at it as from the child's perspective. So here is a quick video that further explains.
Designing an early childhood environment is an opportunity to explore the impact of the physical space on children's learning and development. These are real classrooms used every week by children and teachers. In all of the examples depicted here, as with any classroom in use, you will see strengths and limitations. As you look at these images, ask yourself about the traffic patterns, the boundaries, the teacher's line of sight, the home-like features, and the reflections of culture. How are each of these addressed in the different spaces? Can children easily move about the room? How flexible is the space to accommodate gross motor movement? Do the furnishings look sturdy and child-sized? Are the quiet and active areas in proximity or spaced so as not to disrupt one another? Do you think these centers would be interesting to children? Why or why not? Will children be overstimulated in this environment or understimulated? Are the areas set up so children know how to make the best use of them? Or at least so children know what to do in each? How do these learning environments compare to yours? How do your spaces support child-directed activities? How does your environment support learning goals? Like the early childhood environments depicted here, every space is full of limitations and strengths. Can you now improve on your design? These examples were provided to enhance an educator's skill in maximizing children's learning and development through the design of the environment. We wish you the best in your classroom.
All right. So a teaching team needs to carefully select classroom materials to maximize opportunities for teaching and learning. An underlying principle of developmentally appropriate practice is that children learn best when they're engaged in active learning. So you want to select materials that keep children engaged in learning experiences and activities. You want materials to represent children's interest, sustain their attention, provoke curiosity, and allow children to explore, manipulate, extend, and expand on their learning. Open-ended materials are materials that can be used for a variety of purposes. So things like sticks and rocks, Play-Doh, clay, sand, and water. These kinds of materials encourage creativity, symbolic representation, and higher order thinking skills. For example, children can use recycled materials to create buildings and vehicles. So you really want those kind of open-ended items in your classroom. I don't know if you guys have heard of loose parts, but we have a few of our preschool classrooms that have been made over into loose parts classrooms. And they have a lot of these type of, like in the picture, open-ended materials. And it's amazing to see the different things that the children do with them. You want materials that can offer experiences that support children's learning across a variety of key domains. So for creative arts expression, language development, physical development, and health. Materials can offer experiences that encourage children to explore and construct knowledge. So for example, mechanical toys, pulleys, magnifying glasses, flashlights, and mobiles encourage logical reasoning and problem solving. You want to select materials that support social interactions by encouraging back and forth exchanges among children as they work and play together. And an important goal in early childhood programs is the development of social behavior. Cooperative play is promoted when the teacher chooses items that require children to work together. So examples include games, dramatic play materials, and blocks. You want to arrange and present materials to promote children's independent use. So materials can be purposefully arranged and presented to promote the independent use by children making choices and being able to access the materials. And allowing children to make choices and decisions regarding activities and materials helps them develop confidence in their abilities. And so there's 3 main guidelines to consider when you're selecting materials for the classroom. You want materials, they need to enhance the children's engagement in learning. Materials need to be engaging to support interactions and cooperative play, and materials need to be arranged in an orderly manner and presented to children in a way that promotes independent use. So as you're deciding on what you want to put in your classroom, these are 3 guidelines that you can refer back to make sure that you're actually selecting appropriate materials for the children. All right. And then another aspect of an effective environment is the grouping approach a teacher employs. So throughout the schedule of the class, intentionally grouping children can enhance a teacher's ability to provide instruction. So this can be done spontaneously in the moment or planned in advance. Either way, educators decide on the purpose. So what is the intended goal of the activity? Determine the composition. So what size group and which children will be in that particular group, and then develop a plan. So who goes where and does what. So the above doesn't have to be a time-consuming activity, but it is instrumental in the success of the purpose of grouping, right? So teachers will be able to group children readily and with better outcomes when they know which skills children are working on currently. They know their children, their developmental level and preferences, and they're able to clearly articulate the educational goals for the classroom activities. So really knowing your students and being purposeful in your groupings, not only benefits you as the teacher, but also benefits the students. And so it's recommended that teachers match the group size with the type of activity the class is engaging in. So if you're introducing new concepts, routine activities, and building community, large group tends to work well. While introducing skills can be successful, teaching them is less effective in a large group setting. For engaging interactions and increased opportunities to support children's learning with both peers and adults, small groups are most effective. This is where instruction can be tailored for each grouping of children. So this allows you to do more individualization. And any child may need a periodic boost of one-on-one instruction. So when introducing a complex skill or when a student is struggling, highly individualized instruction offers the best outcome. And this can also be used with your dual language learner students, or that can be something that you take into account when you're creating your small groups, as well as children with IEPs and the goals specifically that they're working on. All right, so when teachers are designing their classroom environments, there are some other considerations to keep in mind. So you want to, for rotations, you want to avoid grouping the same children together all the time, especially when you're pairing skilled with less skilled children. Many teachers limit the number of children per center and create a system for rotating children through favorite areas. And many teachers also regularly rotate toys to generate a sense of newness. Instruction can be tailored within small groups to meet educational goals. So for example, one group of children that's working on learning numbers can read a counting book. Another group working on fine motor skills can do beading, and another group of children working on social skills can practice joining play. So emphasizing cooperation by choosing toys and activities that require cooperative play, right? So large appliance boxes, games that need 2 or more players, balls for throwing back and forth, etc. So you want to make sure that it's not just, children playing individually. You want to really encourage them to be playing cooperatively with their peers. And then whenever possible, keep the design elements simple, both for the sake of the teacher and because simple tends to last longer. Also, some aspects of designing can be done spontaneously and quickly and still be effective. All right. So for this section, we discussed how to assess, strategize, arrange, and modify the physical spaces of your classroom. We covered the classroom material selection. We want to make sure it's relevant to learning. You have a variety and quantity of materials, and integration, you're able to integrate and individualize for the students. And then we also reviewed ways to design groupings of children. So the purpose, composition, and plan. All right. Okay, so the last little section we're going to cover is supportive learning. So we will discuss the importance of learning about and understanding individual children's development and learning. We will explore ways a curriculum provides guidance on the learning environment, learning experiences, and adult-child interactions, and we'll consider ways to use a curriculum's guidance to support individual children's development and learning. So early childhood curricula are designed to support the learning and development of all children within a particular age group. So infants, toddlers, preschool age children, for example, and the program type. So it could be center-based, family childcare, home-based. So how do education staff implement their program's curriculum in ways that are responsive to their children's development and learning? So education staff play an active role in intentionally using a curriculum's guidance and materials to plan learning environments, learning experiences, and interactions that support each child's development and learning. Each child is unique, and there are no one-size-fits-all teaching approaches with young children. So to do this, educators need to ask themselves, what do I know about each child's development and learning? What does my program's curriculum offer? And how do I implement my program's curriculum to support each child's development and learning? So through the use of ongoing child assessment and frequent conversations with families, it is possible to discover a lot about children's development and learning. It's possible to be responsive to children's development and learning while implementing the curriculum with fidelity, considering what the curriculum offers and ways to individualize learning opportunities and interactions. And so before we go a little bit further into using curriculum responsively, we're going to review how children develop and learn. So I'm sure you guys have seen this graphic before. It's the zone of proximal development. We'll refer to as the ZBD. It's a helpful way to think about where children are developmentally. And the ZBD is introduced by psychologist Lev Vygotsky, and it includes the following. So the innermost circle represents what children know and are able to do on their own without assistance. The outermost circle represents the skills and concepts children have yet to start learning. And then everything in between is the learning zone, or the ZBD, the knowledge and skills that children can learn with support from an adult. So the ZBD is the optimal zone for new learning. Children benefit from multiple related learning opportunities in the what I can do with help circle. So educators can responsibly use their curriculum's guidance to support children with learning in their ZBD. When adults help children learn within their ZBD, it's called scaffolding. And scaffolding includes different levels of support and feedback to meet individual children's needs. So some examples of scaffolding strategies include providing hints, offering a range of possible supports, and then using additional resources like books, visual reminders, and even using other children. So in Head Start, we use something called the Early Learning Outcomes Framework, which we refer to as the ELOF. And this helps the educators and families understand what broad expectations for development including that we have for children. So it includes the appropriate learning goals and the developmental progressions. So the eLOF can be used as a tool to better understand children's development and learning. And so it's broken down, we have the infant toddler domains, we have preschool domains, and then the central domains go across the top. And this is, loosely aligned to the DRDP, which is the assessment that we use here in California to assess our children. So our Head Start program uses the DRDP 3 times a year. And it's our eLOF is closely aligned to the DRDP. So although the eLOF describes expected developmental progressions, children vary widely in their development and learning. They each develop at their own rate and may progress more quickly in one domain than another. And in addition, not all children move through developmental progressions in the same way. The developmental sequences that children follow might differ. So, how do education staff learn about individual children's current and emerging knowledge and skills? So educators can use data gathered from informal observations and ongoing child assessment to learn about children's development and learning. Reflecting on the following types of questions will help interpret the data gathered. So what knowledge, skills, and behaviors is each child developing or learning in each domain? What has the child already mastered, or what areas are they currently emerging in? How can I build opportunities to practice emerging skills in the learning experience I plan for each domain? And are there resources in my curriculum that support development of these skills and/or behaviors? So as educators review ongoing child assessment data, it's important to talk with families about their observations of their child's current level and what they're learning at home. And so in these discussions, you may also learn about families' cultures, including their values, expectations, and goals for their child's development and learning. And this information can help educators interpret what they learn from their ongoing child assessment. So again, at Head Start, we have initially when the children enroll in our program, we do a home visit. And so this is a really great way to just get to know the children and the family and kind of, their culture, their expectations, and getting to see that interaction between the child and the parent, which is very important. So we do that upon enrollment. And then after our first assessment period in the fall, we have a parent-teacher conference, and then which is done on site at school. And then we do our second DRDP in the winter. And at that point, we do a second home visit with families. And so we're able to kind of like review our winter DRDP with the families, but also it's a good time again to touch base with families and, see how things are going in the home. And if there's any other needs, that they have outside of what the children needs in the classroom. So Head Start's fully comprehensive. So we not only work with the children, but we're also working with families and making sure that their needs are being met. And then at the end of the year, we do our third DRDP in the spring, and then we follow that up with another parent-teacher conference done at the school site. So educators use information from ongoing child assessment to individualize supports for learning based on children's current levels of development. The eLOF can be used along with ongoing child assessment tool to understand where a child is developmentally and where the child may progress next. So in addition, staff need to consider a child's interests, temperament, culture, and linguistic backgrounds, and other strengths and needs. And again, those are great opportunities to get that information when we're having these meetings with parents. And then again, pick up and drop off every day. We have those ongoing conversations. Things have been a little bit different with COVID. Some of our sites are located on school campuses. And so we're not having those, daily interactions like we used to, because parents are having to drop off outside of the classroom. But we do our best to keep in contact with families so that we have that, that connection with our families, which is really beneficial for our students. Okay, so based on their understanding of children's current and emerging knowledge and skills, educators turn to their curriculum for guidance on learning environments, learning experiences, and adult-child interactions. So some curricula provide a welcome guide, introductory manual, or foundational volume that includes guidance on how to set up the learning environment. Other curricula may provide guidance on specific learning centers or interest areas throughout thematic units or investigations. The sections on the learning environment may offer guidance on how to set up the physical space and layout, suggested learning centers or interest areas, suggested learning materials, sample schedules, including daily routines. So in our program, we use Creative Curriculum, and Creative Curriculum has all of these. They have the welcome guide, the introductory manual, they have the foundational volume, and then they also give suggested interest areas, learning centers, and materials based on the theme that we're studying. Every curriculum provides a set of learning experiences, but the scope and sequence of learning experiences vary by curriculum. So some curriculum offer a set of activities organized by age or domain that do not need to be implemented in a specific sequence. Educators may select the learning experience that best suits a child or group of children. They each consider what they know about a child's knowledge and skills based on informal observations or ongoing child assessment data. And from there, they plan specific learning experiences that will support children's development and learning. And then lastly, within the context of the environment, daily routines or other planned learning experiences, responsive adult-child interactions provide an opportunity to support children's development and extend their learning within their ZBD. So curricula may offer guidance on an introductory manual or foundational volume. Curricula may also have chapters or books that focus on each domain and list teaching practices to support individual children's development in the domain. Guidance may include prompts or questions that the teacher can use to spark children's thinking. So like open-ended questions, like what do you think will happen if, or comments to connect the children to prior experiences. I wonder if you've ever cooked anything at home. Curricula may also suggest vocabulary to use during activities or other interactions with children, or support the use of children's home language. Other curricula offer vignettes or case studies of how a teacher engages in an extended interaction or feedback loop with a child. So curriculum may provide suggested materials or interactions for learning centers or activities. For example, our curriculum may specify scaffolding strategies within learning experiences, such as how to simplify an activity or how to add a challenge with certain materials or learning opportunities. Sometimes strategies may be adapted for children with suspected delays or identified disabilities. In addition, children who are dual language learners may benefit from additional supports to access the curriculum experiences. And again, my experience with Creative Curriculum, we have the intentional teaching cards that we use, and there's actually like scaffolding on the card. So you can pick the level that your group of children are, and you can teach to that level, but it also gives easier adaptations and makes things more difficult. So it's a really great way to kind of look at how to individualize for the children in your class. Okay, so to review, we discussed how to implement your program's curriculum responsively to support individual children's development of skills, behaviors, and concepts described in the ELOF. And I want you to think about the children in your care. What are some of the knowledge, skills, and behaviors that they're developing? And think about how you plan to use your curriculum's guidance and materials to support the individual needs of each child. Your curriculum provides you with many tools and strategies to support children's development and learning, but you have the important role of making these curriculum resources to meet the individual learning and needs of all the children. All right, and so most of my resources that I used today came from our wonderful Head Start website. We call it the eClick, which is the Early Childhood Learning and Knowledge Center, and it's accessible to anybody. They have so many resources, and they have what's called the 15-minute in-service suites. And so you can go in and you can watch a video, and there's just many, many resources. And most of the in-service suites are linked to class, the class tool. And so it's kind of broken down by that. And so it's super beneficial. And we utilize it all the time for our trainings and with our teachers, and just for my own personal use. So it's a really great resource. And so, And then if anybody has any questions for me, I probably talked a lot and went really fast.